This is from the review board. Colonel Reich wrote a very indignant letter about Fletcher Prouty. And
Robert Weich.
yeah, and
Robert Weich wrote very strong letters about Fletcher Prouty.
but the most important thing I think you have to coincidentally, two people came across from the Pentagon to the review board to help out with their research into the military angle, the military intelligence angle. And the two people they sent were Tim Ray and Chris Barger. So they're from the Pentagon. And I give you the I've got Tim Ray's resume here.
I've got that.
Yeah, work experience. County Director for UK, Canada and Ireland. Office of the Assistant Secretary of Defence for International Security Affairs, Pentagon, Washington, DC. So, that's all very well. This guy comes across and his first task seems to be, he doesn't have a neutral attitude about Colonel Jones or Prouty. The intent seems to be to make sure they're discredited. That's the intent for both of them. You can see that in the prelim stuff they do, or the memos they make. Everything is running in tandem. And then we get at the end of all this, where they're busy trying to say that Colonel Jones is full of crap. They've actually reached somebody that knows something, and that's Stephen Weiss, which we've talked about before.
Yeah.
And where Stephen Weiss says, that basically that they had a meeting where prior to this meeting they received word from Colonel Robert Jones, who ordered them, that's the 112th in Dallas, to offer full cooperation to the United States Secret Service in preparation for JFK's visit to Dallas. So, all those people that trash Jones are not reading the right stuff.
Mm.
They're not reading the right stuff. The second part of Colonel Jones is the people that say, well, you should disregard him because he wasn't an operations officer. Well, excuse me. When Special Agent Benavides of the Secret Service phones in on the 30th of December, I think, on the 3rd of December, to look for Jones, he phones the operational office. He's looking for Jones about the Heidel card. That's what he's trying to do. He's looking for information on the Heidel card.
You should have talked to Don Stringfellow instead, because this is the enigma about the whole Heidel thing.
The problem is, you see, there's been a whole case built up on that Jones is not credible. He's not credible because the Prouty story about the Secret Service being apprised about cooperation from Jones, from the 112th. Yeah. Well, it is true. Here's a guy that was there at the meeting. 2, the Secret Service guy that phones into the operations office. And then all these clever clogs, if you go to the handbooks, go to the military intelligence handbooks for the 316th Intelligence Group, and read what an intelligence officer is supposed to do. His task. He's a multitasker. He can be an operations officer if there's somebody missing with flu, if there's somebody not in for illness. These people are expected to multitask. So Jones could well have been there in the operations office. He could well have been an operations officer that day. All this crap that you get It's just so annoying to me.
The best bit is
But Barger and Ray had an agenda. Their agenda, coming from the Pentagon, was twofold: destroy Prouty, destroy Jones, and they did. And I'm sorry to say I was part of it, because I copied a lot of that stuff, swallowed it, hook, line and sinker, and sent it here, there and everywhere. I think I sent it to Larry Hancock, and he wrote a whole thing about it. You know, it annoys me though when I think about it. I'm so gullible. It really does annoy me.
what I found this absolutely astonishing was when Jones testifies for the ACCA, which again isn't online. Although Alan put a copy of it on the ARC website, but of course it has been so badly tagged that it won't be seen in anywhere. So I put it on, and I realized that it wasn't anywhere, and I was like, I'm really not really surprised about this, because in that particular interview he says he's being called by Don Stringfellow of the DPD, who gives him the name Heidel. And of course Stringfellow doesn't play any part whatsoever with Oswald, this, that and the other. But we know that he is connected to military intel. Then there's a document that he said that is being sent, and I've got trouble reading when it was sent, but Jones says that he got contacted by Stringfellow between 1 and 2 o'clock. Now Oswald got arrested at 10 to 2, right? Because the assassination is at 12:30. Apparently he goes to the rooming house, then he goes to whatever, to the Texas Theater, etc., etc. But by the time he's arrested, it's 10 to 2. And I'm thinking, that's really quick to get that ID, that Heidel name forward. Because on top of that, he wasn't part of the arrest team. No one of the arrest team utters a word about the Heidel ID. But yet Don Stringfellow manages to call at that time and give this information through to Jones, who then passes it on to the FBI, who makes 2 reports, one from headquarters and one from a local office, about the Heidel ID. That's how the Heidel ID is actually brought into play that day, there and then. There's no other person who can do that except that Stringfellow. I'm at a total loss how this is possible. Other than that, it's bollocks. You hear me, Larry?
So there we go. There are other things I was looking at, and